Hey, how you guys doing? It's Andrè Butler here in Detroit. Wanted to hang out with you guys a bit today. Excited to go live with you. Excited about the guest we're going to have with us today. As you're joining us, let me know that you're joining us. Let me know where you're joining us from. Love to say what's up. Love to acknowledge you and hide all those that are catching this a little bit later. Just thinking about a few things today. Honestly, there's a lot of things in my mind. Just kind of doing life and praying as a Christian and reading my Bible and reading some books. I'm reading the book Christ the Healer right now, again by F.F. Bosworth, which is like 100 years old, but it's really good. And just thinking about how, God prepares for things ahead of time. And the Bible teaches that he, sees the end from the beginning, right? And so he prepares for what he knows is coming. For example, he had a woman really pour out of her alabaster box on Jesus, and what she was really doing was preparing for his burial, is what Jesus said. And there's so many other examples. And I've just been thinking about this time, even a conversation I had with my dad yesterday, and we were just talking about how, technology was here right on time for this outbreak, because where would churches be without it? Where would businesses be without it? And, God prepared. And I know in some things in my life, I had no idea was coming, but God had prepared ahead of time. And hopefully, if you're somebody that's, following Jesus, this encourages you, because it means that although you may be surprised by some things, God isn't. And he's already prepared. He's already put things in place for you to get through this, for you to thrive when it's over. But beyond that, I think for those of us that have businesses, that have what I like to call God ideas, it's important that we're prepared too, that we are not always reacting. We're proactive. It's smart to think through possible scenarios and to make sure that you have everything in place so that if A happens, we're ready to roll. B happens, we're ready to roll. C happens, we're ready to roll. In fact, as a sports fan, I would just watch the NFL draft, and that's what they do, right? They have a plan ahead of time. They know who they want to draft, but they also have a plan in case this person is gone and that person is gone and this person is gone. I think we got to do the same thing when it comes to our lives. As men, you got to prepare, particularly if you're married, for your wife or your kids. If you're not going to be here, you got to prepare for your kids, their future. In business, once again, you got to prepare for our church and Ethics Church in Detroit. We have some very specific rules we follow when it comes to finances. We only spend 90% of last year's revenue, so that meant that we were fine. We're fine in this time because we prepared for a time that we didn't know was going to come. So that's just my thought for the day, that it's important to, first of all, acknowledge and recognize that if you're a believer, God's already prepared the way for you, and that you shouldn't be stressing out. Just find out the steps he wants you to take. And if you are in business or just chasing after a dream, make sure that you're doing your part, preparing, right? The horse is prepared for the day of battle, but safety to the Lord. Prepare your horse. Make sure you're ready for any and all scenarios so that no matter what comes, you're able to still have success and see your dreams come to pass. So, all right. Well, that's just my thought for today. Let me jump in and acknowledge some folk. We got Miss L. Clark, Venetia, how you doing? Von Milton and Karen. And Mr. Garland and Deborah, how are you? Krista, effortlessly beautiful. Greg and Donnie Dane, how you doing? Nurse Jasmine and Keep Your Faith. That's right, Sandra, Nat. Is that Nat? I'm sorry. And all right, good to catch up with you guys. We're going to be joined pretty soon by our guest for the day. I'm excited about it. He's an entrepreneur. That's just one of many titles. Frankly, when I was writing the post, I was like, how do I describe him? Because he does like a million things. So, but I think that's a good word. Who's just done so much for the city and so much, period. And we've known each other since probably, I guess I was in ninth grade. I remember us shooting around during lunch every day during the summer. At the church's gym, because I was like an 8th grader, 9th grader, and if I remember correctly, he was like a senior in high school, just working at the church in the summer or something. I don't know. And we've been, known each other since then, and watched each other go through different phases of life, and helped each other, and all of that. And there's so much we can learn from him. So Hajj is actually on here. I'm gonna actually loop him in right now, and we can jump right into what I think is gonna be a fascinating conversation. So. There he
Hey,
is.
Pastor. Hey, Pastor, how you doing today?
Doing good. The man, the legend.
Man, I stand on the shoulders of giants trying to be like you when I grow up.
No, man. It's good to catch up with you. I'm glad we can hang out today a little bit. And I know a lot of people that are connected with me know you. They know a lot about you, but not everybody does. So do you mind just kind of sharing a little bit about yourself?
hmm Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here. I consider this an honor for sure. So I'm an engineer by trade, went to Michigan Tech for mechanical engineering, got an MBA, worked in the automotive industry for 10 years, knew that that wasn't going to be my lifelong dream. I run something called Brand Camp University, rebrand cities. So we help people to tell better stories, basically. So,
Hmm.
that's kind of the long and short of it. So.
That's good. So what are you guys doing right now? What projects are you all involved in, particularly in the middle of this um, pandemic, I guess you could say?
Yeah, it's been an interesting time because like a lot of what I had historically been doing really was based on travel, large groups of people coming together,
Hmm.
working with cities. And I told my team, I was like, at the beginning of this, I said, for the next 90 days, there's literally nothing that's going to happen as it relates back to going to cities. So
Right.
we really have to reinvent ourselves.
Hmm.
And so the idea that we had before this even happened was really creating a virtual web accelerator.
Hmm.
And so we had been working on that for months. So there was an announcement that came out yesterday, and so work with the city of Detroit to get small businesses that are affected by COVID-19 that are
Hmm.
not online to be able to get them online. And so that's a big part of what we've been doing. So we work with cities. So we're working 9 different cities, 2 different countries, because this is really a global thing.
Right.
So the 28 million small businesses, 46% have no website, 55% are cash only. And so the thing that we have been working on, physically going to cities, now
Hmm.
has become like every city has this issue, and we're starting to hear from these cities because
Hmm.
now they have to prepare to get these cities online, and to get the small businesses online. And so that's what I've been spending a lot of my time doing that. I'm in the process of writing an ebook that'll come out shortly. But those are the things I'm kind of working on now. But I mean, I literally get on my wife's nerves because I don't mean it in a negative way, but I mean it because I have like I have like new ideas all the time. And so she's like,
Right.
just focus on one idea. And being a serial entrepreneur, sometimes it can be a challenge to do that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that as well. Have a line of ideas. So you guys are really focused on helping small businesses in cities. Is that the best way to say that?
Yeah. Because small businesses are the lifeblood of a community.
Hmm.
And so the foundation of Rebrand Cities really is we believe that a city's story is best told through people. Um,
Hmm.
Everybody doesn't have the money to be able to afford to be able to go purchase skyscrapers or what I'm saying, or things like that. But they're very unique, interesting stories that are doing amazing things. And so
Hmm.
there's a young lady that I read about today. So she braids hair. And so in this space, people can't go get their hair braided. So what did she do? She decided to create this online space that allows people that where she teaches Black women how to braid hair. She charges $5, and so
Smart.
now the New York Times had picked her up. All kind of outlets had picked her up because she
Hmm.
had to reimagine her business.
Hmm.
And so what we're doing with Rebrand Cities is really helping small businesses and helping cities to understand how does a business reimagine themselves in this season. This is
Hmm.
unprecedented times, but this is when great wealth is made. And so this is when people, if you have an ear to be able to hear, God can give you an idea and show you something that you would have never thought about, that when this season ends, you can still actually do it. And so there's a book out, and it's called The Black Swan Theory. And it's by Nassim Taleb. And so a black swan talks about unpredictable, irregular events that have wide sweeping consequences. And so when you look at
Hmm.
what we're in now, this is a black
This is a black
swan.
swan.
There's
Yeah.
there's no business owner that can with a straight face tell you that I had planned for a pandemic. Like I
Right.
mean, like most small businesses just hadn't. So now how do we get in front of that? And I know you talked about that on Sunday in terms of the hustle and the flow and things like that in terms of getting people to reimagine. So I think this is a time where if people shouldn't look at this as, man, I can't get outside, I can't get my hair done. Like, I don't have a good hairline, and I'm cool with that. I got the quarantine cut or whatever. But this is a time where you'll never have this moment again. And can you take that and turn it into something of value?
Right, right. That's definitely important. I mean, I remember the last time we had anything close to this. I think it was I guess you could say the 2008 recession. And I know here in Detroit, a lot of people uh, took advantage of that, scooped up land, just did a number of things. And so when things turned around, they were doing well. And yet this is, I think, way bigger, it's even more impactful than that. And it's one of the things, you're right, that I've been talking about was just taking this time and not being a consumer only, but be a contributor instead of just enjoying what somebody else has produced. Produce something yourself because somebody else did, right? And you're enjoying what they did. So I completely agree with you about that. What do you think the new normal looks like when this is over?
So I think the new normal and I think partly is that now people who were afraid of technology because they're the actual, I guess, like digital divide. And so now people are forced to now realize that, okay, there are online options. Churches are having to deal with this. Churches who prepared for this season from a digital standpoint are probably doing okay now. The churches that didn't, this is like, I mean, it's a hard enough challenge anyway, but I think ones who didn't, like, they're really struggling and probably trying to force physical services and get people back in buildings because they hadn't learned how to be able to adjust to that. So I think part of the new normal is that there's going to be this online economy where people are now more familiar. They have had a chance to be able to have different experiences online, and they're more comfortable with it. And so I think that's going to be part of it. I think you're going to start to see more creativity. So if you look at so now you have a lot of couch concerts. So Erykah Badu is doing bedroom concerts and charging like $3 or something like that. And so would she have ever thought about that before? Probably not. But now if I'm her, I can do these once a quarter. People get, they get a different experience. I don't travel anywhere. I might make an extra $50,000 just doing that, right? And so I think it's a great opportunity for that to happen. The other thing is that the online space is becoming extremely noisy, right? So so even when we started out doing like inside jokes, we were ahead of the curve. We started out and we did that, and then when we did it, it was nobody doing it, right? And so then now you have Cedric the Entertainer, Bill Bellamy, everybody's doing it. So now it's super crowded, right? And so I think you have to figure out how do you cut through the noise when now everybody is there. And so I think that's going to be like one of the challenges. And I think the other thing is, how do you now take what you learned from this season? It shouldn't end even when the pandemic is over. If a church is thinking like, okay, all right, okay, now we get back into a building, I'm still going to take what I learned from a virtual standpoint, and some of things should continue to exist, right? And so I think that's part of it, but I don't think all of us know what this new normal is going to be. But the other part is that we can't think that we're going to go back to what used to exist, because that is not going to happen anymore. Like it's going to be totally different, in my opinion. So
yeah, the world has changed, and that's the bottom line. And I was thinking the other day, and I know this isn't super spiritual or the smartest thing to say, but I was just watching like Sports Center. And some of those things, and I'm watching footage from people's homes, and I'm thinking this is actually kind of cool. Just watching the draft, and it was like there was another element. To me, it felt like it added instead of took away from the experience to say, hey, I'm actually seeing people in their homes, in their spaces, and there's something to that. Even what we're doing, just I'm literally teaching from a couch in my living room right now. And, at first I'm like, oh, this is, I got to wear a hat because I got the quarantine cut or lack of thereof, and all of that. I'm like, this isn't great. But after a while, people are like, hey, I love the feeling of just coming into your home. And one time the dog barked in the middle of the message. They're like, we love that, the look on your face. And I'm like, are you serious? And it's just another element. And it just kind of says to me, yeah, the world has changed, that we have finally become digital, and people are finally, starting to realize the advantages that come along with that. And I know as a pastor, I'm thinking the way you are. I don't think we go back to, or let's just get back in the building and go back to church as is. I don't think that there will be
No.
church, as it was. I think that that's changed, and we're actually working to become a digital church in our thinking. We've
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
lost
I
a part
mean,
of the
and I
faith
think
shouldn't
that that's
exist.
the right way to think because people will pay for people want experiences. And so like earlier this year, like in January, like I talked about rebranding luxury. And the whole point was is that now people are moving away from let's just go get a bag or let's go get a new truck, but like they're willing to pay for experiences. People also like the authenticity of something that feels organic and feels
Hmm.
natural. And so when you
Hmm.
start talking about doing stuff in people's homes, right? So now our homes have become our churches, our restaurants, our
Right,
offices,
right.
like schools, like so
Hmm.
literally my home has become all of the above. And I didn't really think about it that way because like I have an
Hmm.
office in Midtown, but I work a lot at home, but now everybody's at the crib. So,
Right,
so now you start reimagining and rethinking what is a home or what does stuff look like.
right,
And so I think it
right.
creates the opportunity for people to be like super creative. And it's like I'm enjoying seeing people that I didn't have a chance to interact with. And the other part now, everybody's at home right now. So anybody
Right,
that you want to reach, like this is the time if you want to reach somebody, if somebody said they're not home, I'm like, dude, you're at the crib. And I know you
right.
can tell me that you're busy. You might be doing a zillion Zoom calls, but you're at home. Like
Right.
you're literally at home. So this is an opportunity for people to be able to reach anybody. Oprah's at home. Like everybody is at home right
Hmm.
now. And so I think if people are smart, they're really thinking about how do they do that. But I think it's creating like some really unique things that will exist even after this. And it's just fun just to see people in their natural element.
Yeah, it is. I agree with you. I uh, I think that there's definitely uh, this is a time that we won't have again. And I like the idea you saying, hey, you just finished the ebook, and obviously you guys are just kind of shifting your business and using this time. And
Hmm.
I know there are two schools of thought about this time, and one of them is people are kind of posting, hey, don't feel like you have to do something great and special in this time. We're going through something that's tragic and all of that. And if you're just making it through, that's okay. I think there's some benefit to that. I don't disagree with it. But at the other side of it is, um, this is such a time of opportunity, and
This
you
is a
can
moment.
really do something. Yeah.
So this is a moment. So I was listening to something TD Jakes said. So he was doing a recording and he was doing it like from his house. And what he talked about, to go back to Genesis, talking about being fruitful and multiplying. And he says, so like in this season, so everything that we need to get literally is in China. So we need masks, all this other kind of stuff.
Hmm.
We're so dependent upon the rest of the world where
Hmm.
because we haven't been creative, we've been just buying and consuming from other people. This
Right.
is a moment where I really want to challenge people to say, like this is an opportunity to try something out. It doesn't have to be perfect, but now why don't you this is an opportunity where you have more time to be able to spend time with God. You have time at the house. You have because we're not traveling and doing all the things that we normally do to where like I would be experimenting and trying stuff, and even if it doesn't work, it just didn't work, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even when our inside joke, like the first one, and we had like some technical challenges, but anybody who's doing something online is having technical challenges, right?
Right.
And so but what happens in many cases is that people are scared to try stuff because they're scared to fail.
Hmm.
And when I look at failure is not, I'm not talking about a moral issue where where you could, where you could devastate like your family and things like that. But like if I do something and it doesn't work right, then that's okay. I'll get up and I'll just try it again. Right. So I
Hmm.
think this is an opportunity. If I'm a person, I'm thinking like great wealth is made now. The Ubers of the
Right.
world were created during the last bankruptcy and the last things
Right.
that happened.
Right.
So we're going to look back on this moment, and what's going to happen is that people are going to look back at like, what did I do at that time?
Right.
What did I do in that moment? Because when this moment is over, just like you said, we're not getting this back,
Right.
right? Not in this time frame in terms of, So I just think that this is where like, if I'm people like, I mean, like I'm telling you, I feel like I'm in my bag right now. I mean, like I got like
Hmm. Right.
ideas on ideas, so.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I've also written a book during this time, and I got another one that I hopefully be finishing in the next couple of weeks. Just thinking, why not? Right?
Hmm.
Why not? I'm even with the one I did. I just kind of self-published it through Amazon. I've always had my books co-published or, done in another seemingly more professional way. But it's like I'm just going to do it,
Hmm.
and I'm glad I did. And I think that there's so many other things that I think people have on their hearts that
Hmm.
maybe they've been sitting on that you need to just go for it right now. And I really like what you said about failure too, because I think that that really does get in our way. That we want everything to be polished. And honestly, I think if there's any day and age where you can get away with something not being polished, it's right
Hmm.
now. People like authenticity, right? They want to see real rather than polished. In fact, being too polished might actually hurt you in this day
Hmm.
and age.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've been thinking a lot about speed, because, what I'm saying, because, as I start to study speed, I would always think about, okay, am I the fastest? Am I first? And what I
Hmm.
realized is that it's not always about being first, and not always about being the fastest. It's not necessarily about top speed. And so I can give examples of if you look at Apple, and when it came out with the iPod, back in I think like 2001, what happened
Hmm.
was they weren't first, but then they end up cannibalizing something like 80% of the market.
Right.
So they made something better. There are other people who will like figure out, okay, all right, I can be second, and I can be the best, or I can concentrate some time, and I can get out there and I can be first, or I can make something that somebody did better.
Hmm.
But I think I look at speed from the standpoint of, let's concentrate this period of time to push something out the door. And because at the end of the day, in design thinking, we always talk about getting in front of the customer. And so what
Hmm.
happens is that you have to get out of the cubicle, you have to get out of the office, and you
Hmm.
have to get this in front of somebody to see if it's going to work. Because we can pontificate all day and talk about, oh, I'm gonna do this is going to work. But once you put it in front of somebody, and you can see how they respond to it, how they react to it, do they like it? Maybe it's the wrong
Hmm.
color, maybe it's the wrong
Hmm.
thing, but you
Hmm.
don't know until it's like talking to a girl. Like, it's like,
Hmm.
what I'm saying, you can, in your mind, you can theoretically think, okay, I'm gonna say this and do this, but you got to go out and like actually like say something to her. Even though I know you can
Right.
meet her online now, but I mean, but back in the day, like, what I'm saying, you had to actually go up to her and talk to her and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
So
Still the
doing is
same.
important.
Yeah.
Doing is important.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had this conversation on some of my team and just saying, done is better than perfect. And
Yes.
it's
Yes.
been a little point of frustration for me a little bit to kind of say, hey, I get it, guys. I know we want to do it this way and it looks this way. But you know what? It's not out there, just
Hmm.
get it up, get it
Yes.
out there. Done is better than perfect right now. Just get it done. And you can fix it up from there.
Hmm.
And in a time like this, people are actually a little bit more forgiving too. Like you mentioned, even with technical difficulties, people kind of go, okay, I know I didn't watch any of it, but when it was Babyface and wow, I'm going blank. But you know what I'm talking about. When it came,
Yeah.
it was a couple
Yeah.
a
Yo,
week or
Teddy
two
Riley. Yeah.
ago, and
Yeah.
and
Yo, Teddy
people did
Riley.
ride on them pretty hard. But when they came back and got it right, everybody seemed to forget about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's time to it's definitely
Yeah.
time to get out there. And I guess that was one of the things I was going to ask you. You kind of already answered it, but do you have any advice for anybody who happens to be catching up with us that has a business or a God idea that's in their heart, or maybe their business is in operation? They're trying to figure out what to do right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I would think about is like, so what is a lightweight version in terms of being able to get that idea out there? So lots of times, so when we come up with polished ideas, there's this process or methodology, and you go through all of these steps and develop business plans and do all of these things. Um, but I would challenge people to think about, okay, what is the basic framework that I can do to get something out there? And so I'll give you an example. So we
Mm-hmm.
did the Inside Jokes piece. So we didn't have a website. We didn't have all this stuff. All I did I posted something on Facebook on um on a Friday. I tagged somebody. He responded, and that was Vern Sanders. He
Mm-hmm.
responded, and I got something up in a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I got a flyer made. And so what happened was is that I realized I didn't need to have a website. I just need to have an Eventbrite page that already it was a platform, that it was a pre-existing platform.
Right.
I got a group of people together and I was able to go try it out. You know what I'm saying? And so I would say, what is a lightweight version in terms of being able to get that idea out there, right? And so that's what I would challenge people in terms of what does it take to be able to get something out, to get something into the real world.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's a structured, polished 20-step, 6-month process to be able to get something out there. There's also a way to be able to get something out there quickly. And I would leverage, there's so many AI and automated tools and platforms and ways to be able to push stuff and to be able to leverage stuff, meaning that you don't have to build something from the ground up, right? So
Right.
so the platforms exist. There's payment gateways. There's all kind of ways from cash apps to, all kind of different ways to be able to get people to be able to connect to the idea. But I would also think about what is a way that I could be able to monetize this idea, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so it's one thing to come up with something, but also I'm not in the business of creating hobbies. I'm in the business of creating businesses that
Mm-hmm.
generate revenue because I have payroll, I got to get people paid, and things. So as you're thinking about the idea, do this in a way to where you can monetize the idea. And the initial way might be something it might be a freemium model. It might be something to where like you put something out for free and then you connect with the right person. And then something happens, so thinking about how to monetize, and it doesn't mean that you got to charge a lot of money. For our thing, we charge $4.99, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was something that was affordable. And so I would think about that. And so my ebook is going to be like 99 cents.
Right.
It's going to be, it's going to be cheap, And so, and we'll see what happens with it, right?
Right.
But I would say try to find a way to monetize it, but try to find that an economic way to be able to get it out there and just see what works, right? Before
Mm-hmm.
you expend a lot of time. It might just be a project that you start out with. It might not be a full-blown brand. It might not be this big company or business that you start. And so
Mm-hmm.
think about it as a project. That project might evolve into a business, might evolve into a brand. But I would
Right.
start out as a project and it just evolved.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I'm doing with this, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
there's some things we had in mind, and we actually start working on this deep plan for the future. And I was like, you know what? Let's just go live and let's just see what happens, and definitely have some plans going forward. So I agree with you. I think that's great. What's a lightweight way to do it? And even for our church that I'm pastoring, we start saying, if we never met together again in person, what does the church look like?
Mm-hmm.
And start planning that way and just okay, what can we do right now? But it takes a shift. It's a mental shift. And like for me, I've had to kind of go, wait a minute, yeah, forget the big, deep plan. Let's just go out here and figure out how we can do it today. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think like just to your point, it really challenges the point of what is a church, right?
hmm
Um, and so we know what a church is, but in terms of like, what does that look like? I mean,
right,
historically, so everybody knows what it is, and so now it's a great opportunity to be able to rethink. Universities have to rethink. I was looking at an article like the other day that said that, so the universities are going to be hit majorly coming up in the fall, right? And
hmm
so and so now they have to think about how they're going to react to this, and especially if a lot of their money comes from basketball and football, which are the revenue generating sports that make all the other sports go to fund a lot of stuff on the university campus. So we know football is going to happen, right? I mean, we just know it's going to happen because
right,
if not, it's
right,
going to be difficult to keep the schools open.
right,
So, but all of these industries, every industry is going to be disrupted. So if you look at, so what I'm saying? So back when I was a kid, so I would buy CDs and you had to buy the whole CD. Right now, I don't do that. I buy one
right,
song, I play that out, then I go to YouTube and I listen to some more songs. And if I like it, and if I really like the person or I want to support them, I buy the whole album. I don't do it anymore. I buy one song and I buy another song. And so marketing is about changing consumer habits. And
right.
so how do you navigate that water in terms of trying to get people to rethink how to do stuff or how to
hmm
do stuff differently? And I think that at least for all the pastors that were like, I got to have butts in seats, I got to have physical people there.
Yeah.
They now were struck with the reality of like, honestly, okay, I fought this, but now I have to rethink this. And
Right.
if you think about it, if and I've heard you talk about this, where you said that you want to get in front of 100,000 plus, whatever the
hmm
number, and maybe it's changed, whatever. So
No,
now
it is.
you have an opportunity
Right.
to preach and to reach that number. Now you might not physically see them,
hmm
but you have a chance to reach them. And so So how do you approach the fact that now you have that audience, or
Right.
you have the potential to have that audience? And now how do you engage them when you can't see them, and they're not signed up on an email list, or they're not
Right.
physically coming into a building? Because people said they wanted this number. Now you can have the number, but you don't see them. And so now
Mm-hmm.
you have to figure out, what does that look like when
Mm-hmm.
that has the ability to be 100x what would ever come into a physical building. Because just like
Right.
Amazon looked at, like, I have unlimited inventory because I'm not limited to a bookstore, which is why, which is why borders closed, right? So all these
Mm-hmm.
industries are going to have got disrupted by and I'll share this book, and it's by what's the guy, Christian Claytonson. And I remember hearing this guy from Walt Ward, but he talks about disruptive innovation. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's really about these little startups that come in and they overtake these large entities because they do stuff differently. So big churches with big buildings are being
Right.
disrupted by little churches with little buildings that they can
Right.
go sell and get away from because they don't have this big arbitrage, right? And
Yeah.
so that's the thing, that you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Right.
because that is the new normal.
That's good.
Period. That's
That's
the new
good.
normal.
That's really
Yeah.
good. I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, so let me jump in here. So we got a lot of people that have joined us, and I wanted to ask you guys have any questions for Hajj, go ahead and just fire away. Um, yeah, definitely seeing some great comments here, and
So I see somebody had listed something out, like, about a book. So one
yeah,
of the books that I'm reading now is called The First 90 Days. So anytime you transition into like a new position, or if you're the president, they always talk about like the first 100 days. And so I'm reading
mm,
that in terms of like, what does this new project look like? So in management, anytime you transition into something, they expect this 0% learning curve, right? And so they expect you to be able to come in and to get early wins, because that positions you for a longer leeway. I'm reading
mm,
another book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it's really talking about creating systems and habits. So those are two of the books I'm reading now.
mm,
Um, but like I love buying books. I mean, like, I have like a bookshelf like full of books, and then I don't read
mm.
them all in the beginning. I got to kind of go back to them. But those are two of the books that I'm reading.
That's good. That's good
Yeah,
stuff. And you
yeah,
mentioned a few other ones: the Black Swan Theory
yeah,
and Disruptive Innovation. So those are a couple I actually wrote down because it's
yeah,
definitely where we're in right now.
yeah. I
And
mean, so you know what I'm saying. So I'm trying to consume stuff, and just so I can find out what other smart people are doing, right? Because
mhm,
like, there are a lot of people, like, I really try to focus on the fact that I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I try to
mhm,
position myself with people who know a lot more than me, just so I
mhm,
can learn from them, for sure.
mhm. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any other questions at all before we let Hodge go? Just getting a number of thank yous. So yeah,
Yeah.
we really appreciate you jumping on with us, Hodge, and just sharing what's on your heart. I think you got some good things to say, man. I think it's just so important right now to jump on it and make things happen.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm excited, to just see the stuff you guys are doing.
hmm,
You know what I'm saying? So that's cool.
hmm,
So look at the other question here.
yeah.
What are some differences in engaging your audience in the online world versus the old way, the way we did workshops and presentations, right? So now I think people have to um, really think about ways to be more creative, right?
Hmm,
Um, So now people need information. People want to have ways to be able to connect, but I think now I'm looking at, how do I find ways to make sure that I'm present when people need help. And so
hmm,
maybe they don't have the market budget that they normally have,
hmm,
but being present now, when things get back to whatever is, I guess, like this new normal, they'll know that I was there for them.
hmm,
And so that's one of the things that I'm thinking about. So if you are a coach and you did presentations and a lot of your business was flying and traveling to places, now how can you convene this group online and try to humanize that experience, right? So we know that it's different than when we're in the room together and we can, and the energy, the call and response, and we can connect with people. But what we also realize now is that how do you now take this? How can you take what you did in a physical experience and turn it into something that's online? And so realizing that, okay, I could do a 3-hour workshop, but people aren't going to sit online for 3 hours. So now I have to figure, okay, all right, so if it was 3 hours, maybe I can get them online for a half hour to 45 minutes, or looking at different ways to be able to engage. So I would be really, really creative at trying to find different ways to be able to create experiences that people could consume in the environment where they're super distracted and everybody is offering free stuff. Like, so now, like it's so noisy. Like this, there is so much content. You have to figure out a way to kind of get through, like, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like that stuff now. So those would be just a couple of things that I would kind of think about. And then I would probably create something right now that helps small businesses survive during this season, because they're looking for information and they're looking for content.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Somebody's saying, please do not delete this live. I joined about 2 minutes ago. Yeah, I'm not going to delete it. I'm not going to delete it. I'm actually going to post it on Facebook too. You know, having some issues with my Instagram app, technical difficulties, but so if I got to screen record, I'll screen record. So
yeah.
But, it's a lot of good information. And I know a couple years ago, I ran across some content from, what's his name? Well, anyway, Michael Hyatt, and he was talking about how to, if I remember correctly, how to break through the noise on the internet and break through the noise in the marketplace. And I think that is something that I think probably we're going to have to look at a little bit more now. You really got to find a way to differentiate what you're offering, and so that you can still reach people, because now it's like on television. You had 100 channels versus used to having 3 or 4, except now it's like 1 million channels online.
Yes. I mean, like the noise is a real thing. And so I think breaking through, but you know, so what it also does too is that now it levels the playing field, because now all the people who had all the, you know, all the studios with all the lights, and they had all the heavy duty equipment, and they could look different. They don't really look different now. And so I know that when we did an inside joke thing, I looked at what Saturday Night Live did, like when they did theirs, and I was like, theirs don't look any different than ours, right? I mean, so I mean, like, they had better lower thirds and all that kind of stuff. But you know what I'm saying? But I realized that, so now the playing field is really level. I want to do a quick shout out to my man Jonathan Mayer. I just saw him, you know what I'm saying, I hop on. Someone just shout him out real quick. Yeah. But or
have Jonathan on here one of these days.
But you know what I'm saying? So I think now the playing field has really been leveled. And so now you'll really be able to see who has the goods and who doesn't. Right. Because now all the shiny stuff is gone, and it's just, you know what I'm saying, either you got it or you don't. And even if you don't, a lot of stuff can still be developed. You know what I'm saying? So so I would challenge people to really think about, like, you know, how do you now push the envelope in this moment and in this time frame? And you know what I'm saying? So I think this is, you know, but also too, we were built for this season. Like, you know what I'm saying? We were literally built for this. And I was just looking at something about Kanye. And so, you know what I'm saying? And so he's on the new cover of the I'm gonna grab it real quick. Hold on. He's on the new cover of GQ magazine. And the interesting part now, he just became a billionaire, right? And so, but the interesting part was that once he made a commitment to God, and he had financial challenges, all kind of stuff, and you see how his life just shifted. And one opportunity that he really wanted ended up not being the best thing for him. So he wanted to be the guy at Louis Vuitton. He would have never became a billionaire doing that, because he owned 100% of Yeezy. And so I think it's interesting just to see the shifts that are happening, and things that don't work for us end up working for us. God works all things together for his good. And so we can't look at, man, I missed out on this opportunity. The things that I've missed out on have opened up other doors for me. And so in the moment, you're like, man, it feels like I've lost everything, but then you're now set up, and this is really a time for us to be prepared for what's next. Right. So.
Right. Exactly. That's how we started. So that's how we'll end. So, so thank you so much, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. And thanks to all those who jumped in with us as well for your questions. And of course, if you enjoyed this, love for you to share this. Let other people hear it because there's been a lot of good information. Man, he just dropped a whole workshop on y'all, so definitely share that information, help some people out. And we really encourage you to, I'll be on again tomorrow at 12, just doing some lunchtime inspiration, trying something out. So I'll be on with Pastor Carrick Butler from Atlanta. And then later this week, I got a surprise I'm working on that I'm just not saying nothing yet until we lock it up. But
Mhm.
excited about it. So thanks again, Hajj, man. I'm excited about what you're
Anytime.
doing. And I'm excited to see what comes out of this season. I think there's some pretty great things that we're going to look at and say, yeah, God launched something pretty special in it. And so, all right,
Absolutely.
God has a future for all of you guys. We'll see you soon. Thanks a
All right.
lot.
All right. Thank you. Yep. All right. Yeah, bye.